Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my review for the latest episode of Supernatural, celebrating the life of Asa Fox. And this was another good one. It was a filler episode, but it didn't really feel like one. Because it was kind of its own story, kind of done. I mean, it had demons and stuff like that. Your normal kind of filler episode, but it was done again, similar to the Hitler one, in a way that was kind of fresh and kind of a little bit different. It didn't feel as like it was another retread of hunt monster, like case, canvas, look for stuff, and move on. It kind of had its own kind of thing going, and I kind of really liked that. So, it started out showing us this scene from the 80s where this boy is being chased by a werewolf, and then we see that Mary Winchester was the one who saved him from that werewolf. So, she takes him home, says that she's retiring and all that, and he's like, but who's gonna help people then? And she's like, well, I've gotta look out for my kids and everything. And then she goes off, and then we see how this has affected this kid, Asa Fox. And it puts him on the path of becoming a hunter, and he becomes a pretty good one, going through all the years and having all these different kinds of hunts and all that, and they did a really effective job with music throughout this episode, like driving everything and kind of showing where everybody's going and going with the feel of what's going on in the scene. And I thought they did a good song choice with this, kind of showing him going everywhere, hunting things and doing all that. And then it's ended with his death, as we see him pulled by this cord and being hung. So that's kind of where we start off, and then we see Sam and Dean show up on Jody Mills' doorstep, just checking in with her, and I love that they did this. This is exactly what I wanted. Dean's like, you know what? I killed Hitler. And she's like, good, yeah. And I'm like, yes, this is exactly the kind of thing that I wanted from the Hitler episode, that Dean, it's going to pop up randomly, and he's just like, you know what? I killed Hitler. And I was just like, yes. So they're kind of like chilling. Jody's doing her thing. Dean's knocking on her for kind of watching girly rom-com flicks, thinking that she wasn't that kind of woman. And then Sam, of course, doing the burn, like, yeah, he's into, like, Japanese anime erotica. And he's like, dude, don't do that. It's like, what? You can't take it, Dean? Because we all know those magazines you're into. We all know the sites you're into. Just the next logical step. And I'm sorry, Jody's done a lot of crap through the years. She deserves her pleasures just as much as you do. And it was just kind of cool seeing the banter back and forth, how easy they were. And then Jody gets a call that her friend had died, and it was Asa Fox. And this affects her deeply, as we learned throughout the episode, that she had a thing with Asa. And that it really must have been really important to her, because even though they weren't together, she really remembered him fondly and really hit her hard. And it was cool that Sam and Dean were there. They're like, you know what? They'll be doing us a favor if you let us go with you. So they go up to Canada and go to the wake. And it was really cool because it was a different kind of thing that we're used to, because this was a gathering of hunters for a wake for a fellow hunter. And you never really see them, a social gathering of hunters. You usually just see him on jobs like, yeah, I kind of need some backup because this is a pretty big bad that I'm fighting. And it was interesting to see how they interacted with each other, especially like this Canadian group of kind of hunters, or at least the ones that are closest to Canada, and how talking about like the beer, how it was Ace's favorite, and like kind of swapping stories, and how there's like, it's more of a folk legend kind of stuff, that there's legends about Sam and Dean, about all the crazy shit that they've done, and of course we're privy to it, but then all these people have been getting it secondhand, and it's really like big for them. And seeing this one dude go up and immediately kind of take over this one conversation Sam was having with this twins that were like talking to him, how they've got magic and all that, how they were brought up as white witches and all that to fight evil witches. And then he just comes in asking Sam what it was like to be possessed by the devil. And then they're just, I really liked them. They're like, dude, that's not really cool. No, get away from us, please. And it was kind of cool to see the mourning process and all that, and see Asa's mom kind of being bitter because she didn't like that Asa had given up being an astronaut and all of these other dreams. as we learn later through the episode, and that, I mean, yeah, she's friendly towards the hunters, but she's kind of bitter as well because of how she lost her son. So as it's kind of winding down, we then see Mary Winchester come in, and of course Sam and Dean are like, "Oh, hey mom," and of course they're talking with her, and Jody finds out that it's their mom, and she's like, "Wow, I'm gonna leave you guys to it." And then of course Mary's not coming back right away, and Dean starts to like charge off, and then Jody's like, "Listen, you didn't tell me that your mom was alive again. You told me in detail how you killed Hitler, but you didn't tell me your mom was alive again. And if I would give absolutely anything to have my husband and my son back. So just take that into consideration." And then Dean, of course, goes outside to kind of like get his feelings together. And then we start finding out that everything's not as it seems, as like one hunter gets taken out, and we find out that the house has been warded and closed off, and there's a Crossroads demon, JL, who's in there, and is pretty much killing everybody and trying to wreak havoc because he had an axe to grind with Asa, because Asa was the one who exercised him the first time, and he had a real grudge against him. I was like, okay, this is trapped in a house, seeing what's going on, and it was kind of effective to see who's who, kind of a Thing mentality, like from the movie The Thing, John Carpenter's. And I really like that movie, and they did a pretty good job of people going, who's possessed now? What's going on? And finding out that it was the girl twin at first, and then the demon just ejecting itself and just kind of getting everybody to be like, okay, we gotta pair off in twos, find out what's going on, and they're like going through the house, all the water, and the demon's very smart, taking out the water so that way they can't do holy water to test if they're possessed or anything. And just everybody just trying to figure out what's going on. They're like, okay, we're good, we're doing this. And then that's when Dean's like finding out that he can't get in the house because it's warded. And then Billy's like, well, I could get in because I'm a Reaper and I had to get someone who was dead. So, of course, Dean makes a deal with her. She throws him in, and as he gets in, we find out that one of the other hunters, Elvis, is possessed and starts fighting with Dean. But then he's like, I got this, and then spins his head around, kills that hunter, and ejects out. And I'm like, holy crap. And then everybody's like, okay, we're going to make a devil's trap, and everybody who's going to stand inside of it, whoever doesn't, is the demon. And we find out that Jody is the one who's possessed at this point, because she's really saying that Mary's the one that's possessed, and she's just really saying it too much. And then the actress did a really good job playing like regular Jody and then the possessed Jody, who's like going around pretty much knocking on everybody. And I was afraid that Jody was going to die in this episode. I was like, oh god, another supporting character who's really good is going to die. I was really afraid for her. But we find out that through JL that it wasn't him that had killed Asa, but that Bucky had. And there's one friend who was helping him with the hunt. And of course, all of them are able to exorcise JL from Jody, and then we get more insight into what's going on, and that Bucky had accidentally killed Asa because he wanted to go back and get the Angel Blade, pushed him, and Asa fell and killed him. He got knocked on the head and died. And of course, he made it look like JL had killed him. And of course, everybody's like, well, everybody's going to know it was you now, so nobody's going to touch you. And after that, after the danger passed, because they had exorcised the demon back to hell, they were doing funeral pyres for all that were involved. And of course, Asa's mom comes up to Mary and kind of apologizes, because before she had given all the postcards that Asa had written to her and all that, even though there was no real way that Asa or his mother could have known that Mary had been dead all that time. And that was kind of cool that she came up and said, you know what? He did have a family, finding out that the twins were actually Asa's kids, and that even though he was a hunter, he did have a family in the hunters that would come and help him. And it's not your traditional family, but he was a good man doing good things, and she would finally recognize that, even though you would think being an astronaut would be better. He helped just as many people and lived just a full life as a hunter, which is kind of cool. And then we get Billy the Reaper coming in because Dean had supposedly owed her one, pretty much wanting to reap Mary because she could see in her eyes that she didn't feel like she belonged on Earth. And Mary, of course, makes the decision that, yes, I belong here. You just have to wait. And I'm just going to try and figure that out. And Dean's getting more acceptable to the fact that she needs more time to figure out what's going on, that disconnect, because being dead, that's a big thing. And then being dead for so long and then coming back and kind of reacclimating to the world is a big thing, especially all the advancements we've made in 30 years and also figuring out how our sons have grown up. And of course, Jodie's saying, you know what? Your sons are good men. So know that and just trust in that. And of course, she's like, all right, I'm not going to be coming back right now, but I'll have breakfast with you. And he's like, bacon? And she's like, of course bacon. I'm like, Dean's bacon. Yes, it comes from his mom. And just seeing those kind of little things and how Sam is so patient with her, and it's cool to kind of see that and being like, we've all kind of been in your situation. And even though Dean's kind of been in her situation and just is afraid of losing her again. But sometimes you just gotta let people work through that stuff because, granted, Sam and Dean have been through it a lot of times, so it's kind of like, oh, I've died and come back. Okay, it's getting a little bit easier every time. That doesn't happen to everybody that often. But it was kind of cool to get that step together and kind of get along the journey to kind of seeing where Mary Winchester can be going and how that's going to be affecting Sam and Dean and kind of where it's been going. Now, I was almost thinking that we'd get some more Men of Letters thing, maybe a little hint or tease from the British Men of Letters at the end of this, but we didn't. So hopefully that'll be coming back in at some point because I think that's the main overarching story, unless that's kind of like just the fall half, and then we'll get kind of like a bigger one that somehow leads into it because we don't have a big thing yet unless just the whole real point of the season is the journey of the brothers and Mary Winchester kind of gelling together and seeing what comes from that. So those are my opinions on the episode. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also, like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.